You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about unexpected traumas. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And we'd like to welcome Chuck Collins, the creator of Bounce.
Hey. Welcome, sir.
How you doing?
Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, I love everything about this.
You were one of my old school dudes to talk about Mass Effect with. I think when we first met at the way station, that was one of the first things we talked about.
Absolutely. I remember one night you came and I got so excited because I got a T-shirt in the mail that said, "I am assuming direct control."
I remember that shirt.
And you had on, and I think your N7 hat on.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yo, I got this shirt for you." And I still have that shirt too, by the way.
My N7 hat went the way of the dodo, unfortunately.
Oh.
Someone put it in a
we have
dishwasher.
to get you a new one.
We do need to get me a new one. But Chuck, among the many awesome things that you do, most people might know you for the comic Bounce, which is a badass comic that I've been reading since its inception. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about it?
Bounce is basically it's like a semi autobiography of my life as a bouncer. I'd say about maybe 55% of the stories are true. the rest is just nothing but my own crazy mind. It revolves around two best friends, the bouncer and his childhood friend Yemaya, and just they deal with all kinds of crazy bar patrons that come through, and just they deal with them using sarcasm, witty references to anime movies and video games. And also the bouncer can actually do cross-dimensional traveling through bar bathrooms when he gets drunk enough. And that's
Amazing.
pretty much all you need to know.
And how long have you been doing Bounce for?
I think 2014. I think this is
Wow, it's almost 5 years.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, if you don't count the prep and the character designs.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bouncer has been known to, on occasion, transform into some sci-fi creatures and or encounter some sci-fi creatures.
Yes. There's an ongoing joke in Bounce. Every Halloween, he turns into somebody from either a sci-fi or horror or fantasy. So far, the first time he turned into Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Right.
And then I think the second year, who did he turn into? I think it was Darkness from Legend.
Yeah.
Last year, I had him turn into Pumpkinhead.
That I remember, yeah.
And then the year before that, he turned into Godzilla.
Yeah. Like you do.
Yeah, exactly. And then, or if he doesn't become a monster, he fights them, because there was another Halloween special I did where he fought against John Carpenter's The Thing monster.
Right, of course.
Then, yeah, so that was fun.
Amazing. I love Bounce because it can go from funny to serious social commentary so fast and so poignantly that I really, it's one of my favorite things about it, that it isn't just funny and it isn't just social commentary, it's both, and it can do a lot of both.
Yeah, and thank you for that. But I try to tell the story the way I want to bring people into the bar realm where conversations literally make that change. Mm-hmm. I can be here talking to you about anime, games, anything. We're having fun, we're both laughing and everything else, and someone gets assaulted in the bathroom. And you're like, okay, all that turns off. You deal with this one thing, and then you come back and by the way, I just beat Dead Cells.
Right.
It's just part of the thing. But I wanted to be able to bring people in that world. It's every time I go into work, I never know what I'm going to get. Every time the reader sees a comic strip, they're like, what's this going to be about?
Yeah, what's going to happen next?
And it's I constantly beat myself up in the head because I don't consider myself a great writer. I just literally put whatever I think in my head on paper. But it's a lot to tell that kind of narrative under just 4 panels.
Yeah.
Which is a huge challenge. And I think about people like Bill Watterson, Aaron Magruder, Jim Davis. These guys are pumping out comic strips 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. 3 like all year, every month, and then you're like, how do you guys do it? You're
Right.
struggling with 4 panels, and I'm trying to do like one comic strip a week. So yeah, it's a lot. So that's basically what I try to do. I try to bring everybody into that real. Sometimes you get conversations that are unwarranted. You don't necessarily know. You could be minding your own business, listening to some music. Somebody else something at you, and you take off your headphones and be like, what? And then they say something racist or something sexist or something whatever, and you're just like, I really was not ready for that.
Yeah.
Like now my whole day's messed up. Like I don't know.
Right.
Or the person could yell at you and be like, I like your shoes, and you be like, thank you, man. And then you just keep it moving. So
Right. Could go either way.
Yeah.
Chuck, can you please tell us what your history with Mass Effect has been? Like, how did you get into it? Who are your favorite characters? What does it really mean to you?
Oh man, that's like a lot. Basically, I was always a fan of like BioWare from before because you had Jade Empire. There was also Knights of the Old Republic, both.
Yep.
1 and 2. And when I heard the announcement for Mass Effect, I was already excited. I was like, "Oh, this BioWare. Let's do it. I'm down in space now." And like I remember when the game came out, I went and bought it the very first day it came out. I came home. I was expecting one thing. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a cool game," but what I got was something totally different. How detailed it was. How the voice acting, forget about it. I felt like every time I tell somebody about Mass Effect, I said, imagine watching your favorite sci-fi show and it's like 12 episodes for the first season, and that's like what Mass Effect felt like for me, except I was controlling the actual main character instead of just watching it.
Right.
So, and I think, I don't know, there's so many amazing characters in there. I think what's funny is there are characters I don't like, and I know some people are gonna have problems with this, but I'm not a big fan of Ashley, even though I did do a romance with her the first playthrough. Kaidan, I'm kind of like, But the reason why I think Kaidan gets a bad rap, but I mean, I'm not a big fan of his, but I felt like Kaidan was like the one guy that was just kind of like, I'm here, chilling. Yeah, hey Shepard, I got your back, man. And he was just a cool dude, but there was really nothing about him that was like, yo, I want to know more about you, man.
Right.
Ashley, and it was my second playthrough. Ashley, I was like, trying to, you romance with somebody, go back and keep asking them questions and stuff.
Right.
And then I'm like, yay, so Ashley, like, what's good? And she's like, I hate all aliens. I'm like, yo, not for nothing, you getting a little, like, literal racist right now. Like, this, your shit is fucked up. Like, I'm sorry, can I curse? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Like, your shit is kind of fucked up right now. Like, you're like, we shouldn't trust him. Like, why didn't you just go to Cerberus? I mean, I guess Cerberus wasn't really, like, I guess it was just starting to do their thing.
It was around in the first game, but it wasn't really, like well known, as well known at the time.
It would have been. I think that's the only thing. If I was to change anything, I'd be like, yo, Ashley just couldn't stand humans so much. In part 2, when you meet her again, she's just like, I'm a Cerberus agent. And I'm like, oh, that would have been that. I would have been like, all right, now I like your character, because now you're just keeping true to your conviction of being like that humanist kind of person, But like as far as like favorite characters, I mean, I like Liara. I did like what they did in the Mass Effect anime when they kind of turned her into like this savior, but like she was also like this big conspiracy theorist person, like, which is funny because warning about the Reapers. But my favorite part of Liara is when she took over as a Shadow Broker. Mm-hmm. That was like that whole Shadow Broker mission was crazy. And then there's also Tali, Javik. And was it Zaid Masani?
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys.
I'm not totally shocked that you like Zaid, just because of the kind of like badass shit-kicking character he is.
Yeah. It's funny. I got so much amazing Renegade points playing with him. Like, especially his mission. I was just like, yeah, we going everything's gonna be bad.
Well, I mean, but it sounds like, based on how you talk about Mass Effect, it's not unlike, what me and MJ and a lot of the other people who we've had on the show talk about. It's like, it just instantly became a part of your life because it was a video game unlike anything you'd played before.
Honestly, it just didn't become part of it. It changed my life.
Yeah.
Because the storytelling was so amazing. The things that you can do and the different outcomes, it actually made me want to wow, I want to make characters like this. I want to be able to tell a story that impacts people the same way it impacted me. I mean, I'm also I know a lot of people, I don't know how far you guys have gotten, into this playthrough, but I know a lot of people don't like 3. I actually love it. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the very few people, when it ended, I was like, that's the way it happens. I mean, honestly, if we are sitting down recording this podcast right now and making future plans, I just told you about certain things that I'm going to do at the end of the month, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is great, and then aliens come down and I guess we've had a good run. There's nothing we can do about it. It happened. I can't change reality. So it's that's the same way with me with Mass Effect. It was there's certain things that just happen, and you got to deal with it as it comes. So
yeah, I mean, MJ and I are both, or at least I'll speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure MJ agrees that we're pretty open to that. We haven't gotten to 3 yet. We're halfway through 2 as we're having you on for Jacob's loyalty mission, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I haven't played 3 in a while, and I did have issues with it when I first played it, but I really think when we revisit it, I'm going to be a lot more satisfied with what's there. Yeah. And what I've yelled at a lot of angry nerds, mostly adult old men white nerds, is that the whole game's the ending. What do you want? Everything is connected. That whole third game is the ending.
That's it.
And the whole thing is a love letter to the whole series. But can't please all the nerds all the time.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's a whole other. We should do a whole episode on just that.
We might after Andromeda.
Oh God.
I actually really like 3.
Yeah, good.
I played it fairly recently, and I was pretty content with how it ended, or with the ending that I chose. And while I wish that there was a little bit more closure,
right?
Sure.
Yes,
I get
say
it.
That's true. You are right about that.
So
yeah, I really did. I honestly did the song and end once and for all. Always at the end. I will bawl like a baby if you play that.
Oh yeah,
right
that kills me. That song.
Oh Lord.
So Chuck, what choices
Yes.
would have been in your ideal playthrough?
Choices for
For the first Mass Effect. So let's start
pivotal
with the
moments.
Night Queen. Did you kill her or save her?
I saved her.
With Rex, did you have to kill him or did he stay alive and join you?
I loved Rex too much. I couldn't do it.
On Vermeer, who lived and who died?
And who told
like I said,
your
I did-
story?
The first,
Yeah.
the first person that I saved was Ashley. Mm-hmm. I think my second playthrough. Actually, you have to understand. I've done 6 playthroughs.
I mean,
Sure.
so have we, but in your
Yeah.
ideal perfect playthrough,
Oh,
who lives?
in my ideal, it would be Ashley.
Ashley lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I did kind of like what her character became when she got to 3.
Who is your ideal love interest in the first game?
I was always romanced Liara.
Liara.
Yeah.
All right. And then with the council, did you save their sorry asses or did you let them die?
No, I saved them.
Yeah. We all with that. And then finally, of course, Anderson or Dina, who ended up on the council.
Anderson.
Obviously.
Yes, because
You say
he's
obviously,
Space Dad.
but you
Exactly.
let Udina take over the council.
I did because I didn't want to play the politics game.
You didn't want to play a politics game. Look at me, I'm Matt Shepard, and I step away and let other people take responsibility. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I mean, welcome to me having to get engaged with life. Chuck, we're really excited to get into the content of this episode, but before we do, MJ has a bit of a content warning and then is going to give our summary of the mission we're discussing today.
Yes, it's really important that we let our listeners know that there is a content warning. This mission will discuss rape, assault, gaslighting, and abuse, along with a lot of other really troublesome and questionable story devices. And if that is uncomfortable for you to listen to, we completely understand, and we'll see you with our next episode, which is, I believe, The Prodigal, featuring Miranda's loyalty mission. So if you can't stick with us for this episode, we totally understand, and we appreciate you and love you and want you to feel safe no matter what. So that being said, the gift of greatness.
Yeah, this mission is it was on this bullshit.
Well, let me give a summary before we start talking about it. No, it's like I have a lot of feelings, and we'll talk about it.
I know.
Finally, we set out to complete Jacob's loyalty mission. Jacob's father went missing 10 years ago, but his ship recently sent out a distress call requesting rescue. Concerned, Jacob asks for Shepard's help to find out what's going on. We land on Aiea and discover a few unsettling logs that indicate the crew's state of mind and suffering. The beacon informs us that it was repaired within a year of the crash, but was paused for over 8 years for a reason deleted by acting captain Ronald Taylor. We meet a confused young woman excited by her appearance and are attacked by men who think we're a threat. We discover some atrocities committed by Jacob's father and the other first officers, such as forcing the crew to eat toxic food and assigning women to officers like pets. We are forced to fight our way through to Taylor, where we find him waiting for us.
Jeez. So before we get to the whole thing about this episode, about this mission, we do our check-ins, and so I'd like to have a little levity and do our ship check-ins, talk about the pre-arriving on the planet, and then dive into the meat of all of this, as Chuck so eloquently put it, bullshit. So we don't have a ton of check-ins this time around, but I have good news, loyal listeners. For those who have tuned in previously, they might remember that when I checked in with Kelly, at one point she offered to have dinner and get to know each other better, and I chickened out like a nerd.
Like a wimp.
Well, but the check-in after the collector ship, you can flirt with her again. She offers dinner again, and I accepted.
Yay!
Redemption. She makes a crack about not having stayed up that late since college, that they talked the whole night, and it was actually quite sweet and really nice. I am awkward around people I am attracted to, even if I am not intending to pursue a relationship. Therefore, that translates to Mass Effect. But all went well. It was a nice dinner. And I finally caught up on my Thane dialogue, because as those listening would remember, I missed one of the check-ins. Now, because we're slowly catching up to everybody's loyalty missions, I think I'm concurrent with what MJ mentioned last time in Thane's check-in conversation.
During this conversation, Kelly says, if Edie had a body, I'd give her a big hug. And my response is, girl, can I have a hug? I fucking need it.
Yeah.
After that mission on the collector ship, please give me a hug. I don't need this to be sexual or intimate. I just need a platonic friend giving me a hug, because it was a hard time.
See, I remember playing and Kelly flirting, but I was already like, nah, man, I gotta stay loyal to Liara. And then I was like, not. But then I remember my first playthrough, Mass Effect 2. I didn't make it in time.
Right.
And I felt I'm playing this all over again, just for her. Like, we saving her, even though I ain't trying to get with you, girl. But at the same time, you cool. I ain't trying to make you like.
Your loyalty is noted and is very sweet.
Kelly,
our only other check. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Kelly lets us know that our other check-in, Tally, she's very distraught. She got some kind of message, which turns out to be that she's accused of treason, of all fucking things.
By the flotilla. Like, how of all the people are you going to accuse Tali of treason? Tali's done everything for the flotilla and then some. But you can immediately tell her that you believe her and you don't think she did it, and like that reassures her. And then you get another. Then it quickly changes to, all right, well, can we go do this thing? And you're like, yeah. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah. I really appreciate that during this conversation, Tally trusts you enough to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to this friendship. And as a femme presenting person, it's really important to me personally to have friends that I can be vulnerable with, who can be vulnerable with me. And it adds another layer to our friendship, whether there's a mutual romantic interest or we're just platonic friends. It makes the friendship or the relationship much more meaningful because we have shared something with each other.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's how I view my relationship as male shepherd with Garrus. Like, he's a character that you can rely on, and like even when he doesn't have a lot to say, you know, he's got your back, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But that's it as far as check-ins, because everyone else is waiting around for you
I
to
have
help
more
them with their
comments.
to-do list. What was
I
that?
have more comments.
Oh, do you?
First of all, it's total bullshit that the details can't be given until she answers the charges.
Yeah,
Like,
that's nonsense.
I get it that
Like, what do you
it's
mean
the
you can't-
writers. I get it that it's the writer's way of like building the suspense, but that's garbage. That is the most garbage thing that you could say.
Yeah, because like now, I mean, I know when I get bad news, if they say, if someone says to me, "Oh, we should talk," but I can't tell you why. We need to talk.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
never could.
No. And that was the whole thing with it. Well, Tali's mission is actually one of my favorites because it's got, I think, I forget the name of the actress who plays her, like, relative.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
You know,
though.
from Expanse.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my God, she's like awesome. I was like, you join me, join the crew too.
Yeah, when we get to that point, like the flotilla is some of my favorite places to be, just because it's unlike anything else we've seen so far in Mass Effect.
Yeah, word.
I really wish they had more of that in the actual. Like that was the only time you got a chance to really see it. And you hear so much about it. I think the one thing that I do love about Mass Effect is there's so much lore. I would love for them to just be a game with just the Quarians and like the Geth, like that whole
Like
thing.
that whole that start. Yeah, that
I
would be
love
amazing.
to see that.
There's a couple of things that Tally says that stuck out to me. An exile can still have children, and those children are welcomed back to the fleet. What a forgiving family.
Yeah, right. And like what's really interesting about Tali is like even in this brief conversation, you can tell she's also just as worried about her father and how it affects him as she is herself.
Yeah.
Which I mean is Tali's personality to a core, always worrying about others over herself.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, the fleet is her family. She says that this is the worst
Right.
kind of family meeting. And the stakes are so high. She's possibly going to be exiled from the only life that she's ever really known.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
I am concerned.
Which also, like, on a meta level, takes you out of, like, this is urgent, but I'm going to go do this other thing.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm like, oh no,
Shepard was
everybody's
good for that.
problems are urgent. What do I do?
Right? Like, if I were really in Shepard's shoes, I'd be and have all of the loyalty missions. I'd be like, all right, but like, dude, really, what do I do?
No.
I've got a Krogan in the bowels of the ship, bashing his head against the wall. Some other dude got to find his father. Someone else's sister's in trouble. Someone's whole family, like flotilla, there's an issue. Like, what do I do? Yeah, I'd imagine that's a little much.
It is, but my favorite thing about Shepard too is how he quickly cuts things off. It's like, you know, yeah, you just helped me save my dad, and you know, you just helped me, and this is like such a huge emotional thing. And then Shepard's just like, I should go. And you're like, all right, man, but you know, I gotta kind of process this shit.
I got stuff going on.
Like,
Yeah.
I got some like noted. Like, all right, Shepard, all right, who you want me to kill now?
All right.
Are we done with comments about Tali?
Yes. Are we ready to get into it?
Yeah. So you gave the summary. I feel like it doesn't behoove us to just dissect bit by bit the whole summary because you've already given the broad strokes. I think we have to talk about what we're dealing with here and how much of a problem it is. I mean, I'm also curious, Chuck, with your thoughts on Jacob as a character. Like, I thought he was an okay character in a similar vein that Caden was an okay character.
Right.
Did you have any attachment to him as a character? Did you think he was someone that you liked squatting up with, not like squatting up with?
I his abilities of him being a biotic, which was his stuff was really good.
Right.
He was a strong character to play with on that level. As far as personality wise, I used to call him Space Kanye, but
You're not wrong. I can see the resemblance.
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I like about Jacob. I just think that I don't know. He just didn't really stand out to me. I think
Sure.
that they could have done a lot of better things with his character.
Right.
But this loyalty mission did not help that.
No.
I mean, who he became after that, and you know, you as you progress, you get to 3, and you're like, okay, you know, I'm glad we helped you, man. Like,
Right.
you're out here doing your thing. It's cool. But like, this story did not make me like his character. Well, I mean, not him as a person, but this story it annoyed me. I was like, why the only black man in space? Oh, well, other than Shepard or black woman, because I
Right.
when I play a Shepard, either man or woman, they always black. You know,
Right,
so-
sure, of course.
I'm like, but other than that, you're the only other black man in space, and you give him this story.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really annoyed me was I got the concept of what the mission was supposed to be. I got the representation of the evil nature of what it was.
Right.
I could have done without it.
Yeah.
But it's like I said before in the beginning. This is happening. Let's deal with it. This is Mass Effect. Push through.
So,
You know.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
So, not to step on your perception, Chuck, I just want to point out that one of the reasons why I had a problem with this entire mission is that stories that are founded on the violence toward women to like progress a male character's backstory and like make them grow as a
Yes.
character, they're fucking basic and boring. Get that shit out of my face.
Yeah. It's what do they call it? The refrigerator
Yeah.
Fridging, yeah.
fridging? Yeah, like that. It's like when you're like being a kid and you read these kind of stories. Like when I was in high school, it's like, oh man, you know, the main character's girlfriend was killed, and that's if I love someone so much and that happened, I'd be a violent person too. It's like, yeah, when back in the 90s where everything was extreme and everything was ridiculous and stupid, I guess that works. We're in 2019,
Yeah.
where people are thinking different and people are trying to progress as human beings, and these kind of stories are ridiculous. If you're out here as a 40-something male and this is the kind of story you want to tell, you need to check yourself. Like that, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because, like, honestly, it's like the adventures of Jacob Taylor in the Incel Paradise. Like, I don't understand why we're telling this story.
Sure.
You know-
Well, and like an idea that MJ had was to like, how could we tell this story better, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
And,
wanted
like-
to do that for Fandom Corner. So,
Okay.
because
So
we're
we'll
members
we'll
of
come
the
back
fandom.
around to that, but like no, but I agree with what you're both saying. Like, and something I had mentioned to Chuck before we started recording, and MJ when I was playing this is like, I know this bothered me as a kid. It had to, right? It was terrible. But like replaying it now, one of the first like audio logs you get is a man in a deep voice in a what sounds like an isolated space talking about the advantage he's taking of the incapacitated women, and it made me want to like, it literally made me physically ill.
I literally cried
it-
on the couch.
And which is an absolutely valid and not and reasonable reaction to that, because it's so upsetting and something that I could gloss over when I was a younger player. I guess we're just less aware, maybe. Like, I don't even know what to attribute that to, but there's no way to ignore it now. And, like, this is the first time I sort of dreaded this mission, but now every time I have to play this mission, I'm going to dread it because it's just, the use of women to just move the narrative forward. And, like, I get, like Chuck was saying, like, Jacob's father is evil, and we want to portray him as evil. But there has to be other ways to do that, because this just is awful and gross on every level, and hard to go through. And, like, the whole time too, like, I'm with Jacob. Like, Jacob's mumbling under his breath and, like, cursing and, like, getting angry and, like, yelling back at the loudspeaker that his father's talking to us over. And, like, I'm with him in that moment. Like, this is one of the few missions where I felt leaning more towards Renegade the whole time, because I'm just angry. Like, I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not wanting to hear if there's a better explanation. Like, there was never a moment of that. And I'm actually curious, MJ, who did you bring on this mission with you besides Jacob?
Garrus.
See, I brought Miranda mostly because I wanted another human, and I wanted someone Jacob knew for a long time. Because I knew something was going down. Like, there was going to be some semblance of shit.
I done went and fucked up and bought Jack.
Oh, boy.
I'm sure Jack did not like this at all.
No,
I'm sure.
she hated it.
Of course.
That's the thing. Like, that's what made it even crazier, because and every time I did the mission, I made sure to bring Jack with me, because she was the only one that was, like, on my side, like, are we killing everybody here? Because this is some bullshit.
Yeah.
And, like, I won't forget the first time I really played it, and one of the things that really, really stood out to me was when the first woman you see is this white woman, and it says, "You're evil, you have his face." And I'm like, "Oh, how you see the first black man and this is your response?"
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That's the thing, which brings me to another point, is that the people who wrote this particular story, either there were no women or black folks in the room when they were writing.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Like, yeah, and that's I'm going to send this special message to white folks in the industry when it comes to video games and writing. Before you do your bullshit, contact your woke ass white friend or your woke ass black dude or woman and be like, "Yo, is this shit right?" Like, you wouldn't get upset over this, right? And then if they look at you and go, "All right, man, you good," then you go and do the story. If they look at you and be like, you serious right now? Then throw that whole shit away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Delete your account. Do everything that you need to do to reestablish yourself as a person. Because that's, oh God, like that whole story. Like, as it's already hard enough dealing and being like a larger black male, and then so. When you're in a space, like, that's the thing. If I played as a white version of Shepard,
Yeah.
I'd have been like, dude, go back to this shit, man. I'll take care of this, man. Because apparently people don't like your face and just your general appearance. Like, they are uncomfortable. Like it. But I'm like, that's just how it is for us. But I don't, and I think that goes into the reason why I hated the mission so much. I felt that Jacob was thrown into this thing, into a story he really didn't deserve.
Right.
Already
Yeah.
at that point, I was kind of like, Jacob is okay. And then you give me this?
Yeah.
Like, come on, y'all.
And also, like, it's such a cliche, the troubled father of the black youth.
Thank you.
Like, it's like I've been seeing that shit since Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Right.
Like, and before. Like, that's
like-
just a tired trope that's been told so many
It's
times.
so horrible. Like, it's like Jacob is like the woke black male that is not, homophobic, transphobic, or very open-minded to a lot of things that are going on around him as the world is changing. And it's like Jacob's father was more like, the Hotep black dude who's like, yeah, man, a woman's place is here because I'm king and she my queen and blah, 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 and all that. It's like there was a clashing of these two personalities. And that's what the very first time I played the game, that's exactly what I thought, which actually made me kind of calm down because I laughed at that. I was like, look, it's wokeness versus hoteps. That's funny.
Yeah. but also it's it's tired at this point. Now, of course, this game didn't come out this year. This game came out a little bit ago, but it's still recent enough that it feels like this should have been more obvious. I mean, of course, we're making strides and leaps and bounds to push things to the forefront now more than ever. But like, and like we're not talking much about the combat in this mission because most of the combat is shooting other humans who have gone feral, rebelled. Like it's not even clear why we're shooting the men, other than
I actually would like to comment on that.
Oh yeah.
So the first time we get into an altercation is because we're being attacked because they think we're with Ronald.
Right.
They think we're with acting Captain Taylor. And then the second time we have to fight humans, it's because he sends them after us, so to speak. Like, they're protecting him.
Yeah.
And apparently they're so far gone that they can't be told, oh, stand down, they're with us. He doesn't care about their lives anymore.
No.
So he's fine with throwing them away. And it's
Well, and also like we fight Max at one point, like it stops being about fighting the humans, but like I'm grateful that at least they weren't like they were doing like they did every terrible thing to a woman they could have, except for throwing them at you as bodies and weapon. Honestly. And like that's the only thing they didn't do, which isn't any sort of a saving grace, but I'm just at least grateful for that. Yeah. That I wasn't also killing them on top of everything else.
That was the thing, man. I remember doing that mission, also felt bad for the people. It's like you said, MJ, like when there was this whole thing, when you first get there, they're attacking you and you're like, oh, wait, I gotta defend myself, so shit, I didn't mean to kill these people. But then as it continues forward, you're like, yo, these people didn't deserve any of this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and then much like you, after you got to that point when you were fighting the mechs, I was like, damn, at least I ain't killing them. I don't even know how I'm gonna get through this.
Yeah.
It was just a horrible thing all the way through. And like I said, every time I get to that point, I'll just, I'll eat it. All right, let's do your mission, man. Let's go. In fact, I'll do it first.
Yeah.
Before anybody, so I can get out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did this first because I don't think I could handle us doing everything else and then doing this. Like, unfortunately for me, this came in the same week that I also had to watch a very traumatic episode of Veronica Mars. So, like, I'm having a time.
Oh, man.
But I do kind of want to skip ahead a little bit to the final scene with Ronald Taylor because I don't think that it is productive for us to talk about the specific horrors that the characters we encounter have gone through. I just kind of want to get to how did we conclude this mission?
Sure.
And
that makes total sense. Yeah, for me, the finally getting to Jacob's father and the encounter with him, my shepherd, and I'm sure it's all the shepherds, but speaking from the perspective
every shepherd across the board.
Every shepherd across the board, has such an aggressive stance already. And, I'm already uncomfortable in my seat, and pretty much the way Shepard is projecting his displeasure, his anger, their anger, I'm feeling that in droves. And, this is the first time... And listeners to this podcast know I have trouble remembering the order of events because it's been a while since I've played too. But starting this conversation, I said to myself out loud, if they give me a chance to shoot him, I'm gonna fucking shoot him. Yeah. And of course, that's not the way the conversation progresses. It goes a different way if you still pursue the renegade path. But there have been times that MJ during the course of this replay has done a renegade act for the greater good that I've not agreed with. And I've logicked my way around it for whatever reason, but that was all gone here on this final conversation. I was just ready to pull a trigger, and I'm confident to say that everyone was kind of in the same boat here.
Yes.
Yeah, I went up in there. Oh, I'm sorry, if you were going to say.
Oh no, I just said yes. You go ahead. I do have a point, but you first.
I'm sorry. No, I was like Omar Little from The Wire. I was like, you got to go. It's a wrap. I don't care what we got to do. There's no, where's the Where's the R1 button? Let's do it.
There's no how do we arrest him and bring him to the Alliance? No. Yeah.
I think I did do a one playthrough where I did let the Alliance pick him up because I wanted to get that Paragon point. Just the
right.
But every single time, Renegade or Paragon, you're going to go.
Yeah.
There's no. I can't stand that character.
Yeah.
That was some really, really messed up. And I get it because there are people in real life that do these kind of atrocities, and it's very sad, and some of it is very real. And you even have people who sign on to these ideologies. That's why I called it Incel Paradise.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, and I don't mean to sound like that person, but I'm coming to Mass Effect to look for a semblance of escape.
Yeah, sure.
And I know I'm going to have to deal with evil people. I know I'm going to have to deal with all kinds of decision making and everything else. But honestly, if you've seen one messed up villain do some crazy, creepy, rapey things like what this character's doing, you've seen them all, you don't really need to see it again.
Yeah. Totally.
That's just my thing.
So I have a couple of notes about my experience with this, which is slightly different from you two because I am a cisgendered woman, femme presenting.
Right.
Like, all of this experience has felt like a personal attack throughout the entire thing. There's a moment where acting Captain Taylor says, "I'll get you something nice when we get out of here," which reminded me of, "I'll buy you something pretty."
Yeah, I forgot about that. Wow.
And I very much wanted to be the one to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So I took the hard Renegade line the entire time. I told him, never mind, explain yourself. Are you surprised that it's Jacob? I don't buy this. And I told Jacob that I'd shoot him. And
yeah, I think I took the hard Renegade line up until the last moment, and Jacob handed him the gun.
yes.
With a few rounds left.
Which, personally, I would have rather be the one to kill him. Because letting him take this out gives him some semblance of honor that I feel that he does not deserve as a character.
That makes total sense for me as I think for me as a white character in this moment. I felt it was not my place to interject myself into this situation. I was there to accompany Jacob, but I felt that the decision lied with Jacob to how this should be resolved, and I wanted it to be resolved that way. And Jacob handing him the gun with not enough bullets so he would kill himself was that's how that resolved. And I thought, not even in a meta way, in the brain of my shepherd, I want this to be resolved the way Jacob sees fit. This is his father. We're here for Jacob. But your decision also, MJ, makes total sense. It's just not where my brain went. I felt like I needed to take a step back and listen and let the person who this was about take the steps forward and make that decision.
Which is completely valid. And that is probably the better way to handle it. I was very colored by emotion and very, physically sick with everything that I had seen, and I did not trust law enforcement to handle it, and it felt like someone should take responsibility.
Right.
So.
Which, I mean, totally makes sense also, yeah. I mean, the at the end of the day, this mission is not fun.
No.
It is not fun. There's no real right answer, unfortunately, other than it's all bad and it's all wrong. And however we can get to the other side of it, we have to do it, and that's what we did. It's not often when we talk about a mission in this game where we kind of beat around it a bit. I mean, we were pretty upfront about when we gave a content warning and we talked about what this mission involves, but MJ's right. There's no reason to get into the nitty gritty of this mission because it's horrible.
It's very horrible. I totally, it's such a really messed up position to put these characters in. Characters that, whatever gender you're playing as, or race or whatever, you're playing as an actual person that has to make this decision.
Yeah.
And then you giving it to someone who viewed this man the same way that we've always loved our father that has always been there for us.
Right.
And you're sitting there like you're giving this person this decision to make. Because at that point, there was a point where Jacob gets to where he's like, the man that I used to know is no longer that man.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's their version of storytelling, saying that Jacobs came to terms with the fact that if he had to kill his own father, he would.
Right.
But like it's just, I really, yeah. BioWare, you fucked up, man. I'm sorry. you there was no need for that story at all. Like to make characters actually have to go there. And look, it's like I said, Mass Effect is that game. You get presented with a particular kind of thing, you got to push through it. I get it, but this is just shaking head meme. Like, head gif all day long. Like, it's like I'm sorry. This is not a good one.
Do we have any further salient points about the events on Aiea, the planet that I can't pronounce? Aiea, that one.
You're right.
It's a lot of vowels.
No.
It's all vowels.
It is. It's all vowels. The planet's name is all vowels.
I know. This is hilarious.
No, I don't think I have anything else. I encourage. I mean, our listeners are great, and they're always vocal about their thoughts. And like, I encourage you in this conversation to be considerate of the content in it. But like, also, if you have things you want to share, perspectives, how it made you feel, like, please do that. Like, the way we survive things like this, both in life and in video games and in storytelling, is by talking about it. And I absolutely urge people to talk about it.
You are always welcome to enter our Discord and share your feelings. We have a very supportive community there, and we all want to make sure that everybody feels heard and feels safe. Can I tell you my absolute favorite Joker interaction?
Okay.
So after the events on Aiea, which I can't say the first time for some reason, Joker tells you that someone is coming to pick up the survivors. And I took the Renegade line and said, if they get so much as a glimpse, you're restricted to decaf. And Joker replies, great, may as well serve it in the airlock, you hard ass.
Oh my god.
Best friends.
Best friends.
I love him.
I love Joker.
You know who
it's
I
hard
don't
not to
love?
Joker.
You know who I don't love?
The Elusive Man.
I
who we
don't
have
love
to
the
talk to
Elusive
after the
Man.
mission.
He's the worst, and I hate him.
It's funny. Chuck was saying off the air that he loves the way the character's designed. Right.
He's probably one of my favorite villains of all time.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah.
But also Chuck, like the rest of us, doesn't actually like him.
Yeah.
Like,
He's absolutely a piece of shit. Like, he's, he's so suave in doing it.
Yeah.
Like, he's a suave piece of shit. Like, that's what I mean.
a shiny turd
Yes.
is still a turd.
Yes, and he's got Martin Sheen's voice.
Yeah.
Like that. You can't. I mean, look, the dude is. You have to step out of his personality for a second. I'm sorry, we're gonna make this a tribute to the Elusive Man podcast, like this. But no, you have to step out of the personality he is and just look at the way he set up his whole thing.
Yeah.
Your man is on the most comfortable chair in the galaxy. He's got bourbon in one hand, or scotch, I think.
Right.
Scotch, and he's got scotch in one hand, cigarette in the other, and he's looking at one of the most beautiful stars in the system. I'm sorry.
That's like, and also like if that doesn't tip you off that he's a villain, like I don't know what will.
Oh my god! Like honestly, if I came in contact with the Elusive Man, I'm like, okay, now you got to go because I need all this space. This shit is off the hook. Oh man.
Well, Well, in this conversation with the elusive man, we find out that he is not responsible for Jacob finding out about the Hugo Gernsback. Because
Yeah, it's actually Miranda.
Yeah.
Yep. The elusive man
Which-
says, if I had leaked the information, I'd be smiling. I am not,
I'm not
smiling. But it did turn out to be
Disapproving
Miranda.
parent, elusive man. This interaction is really interesting though, because it's the first time, I think, more or less, since the start of the game where we get to see, except when we talk to Miranda about her loyalty mission and accept it, we get to see her sensitive side. Like, you can see that there is some semblance of a past between Jacob and Miranda that she's trying to honor, and like, there's genuine concern here.
Yeah. She said that this was something that used to matter to him, and so it still matters to her.
Yeah. And it's like, after that moment, I'm like, okay, all right, maybe Miranda is a human under that cold, shitty exterior.
Not
I
secretly
think also
aboard.
Jacob and I think that Jacob and Miranda had a little thing going on back in the day.
It's unclear, but it seems like there was something, yeah.
I think,
And they allude to it.
or
Yeah.
something may have happened, or maybe something on either side wanted to happen, and the other one.
Well,
didn't.
Jacob,
Right.
I don't know.
did Jacob not say to either of you that Miranda requires a better man than he?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
To
true.
me,
I
that
do
clearly
remember, yes,
said,
yeah.
like, we were in a thing once, but it didn't work out because she needs someone a lot more on her level than I am.
Yep.
A lot of something.
A lot
Whatever
of
that
something.
is, you need a lot of it.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and that wraps up this mission. You had an interesting idea, MJ, for Fandom Corner.
yeah, as we talked about earlier, this mission sucked. So, and we also felt that it was disingenuous to Jacob's character and not quite what he needed. So let's talk about how this mission could have gone with a person of color on the team and a woman on the team trying to, and also two queer people on the team.
Yeah.
Like people of different perspectives. What does Jacob need out of a loyalty mission? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, Jacob, the character, has been talking about his father the whole time. Even before we get this mission, like, he talks about his father being missing in action and that he kind of had to take care of himself. So, an encounter with his father, I think, is still core. And his father turning out to be the man Jacob always thought he was also core, I think.
Right.
But I think maybe a story crafted where something pulled Jacob's father away that he's not proud of, and while he wasn't always there, like some kind of redemption. Like, at the end of the day, there is no redemption for this character. He is just terrible, and everything he did was terrible. And I think what makes it tropey is this idea that he's just a missing father. He's just not there. And I think if there were some kind of story that you could craft where Jacob is reunited with his father, and his father had to sacrifice himself or something, or his ship, to protect someone else or to save the crew or something.
Absolutely. I think that was one thing that I thought. I was like, they spent so much time building up, Jacob's father. It's like, like you said, missing in action, wasn't really around that much and everything else, but he still had a huge respect for his father.
Right.
And then you get to know Jacob. Like I said, not my favorite dude, but he was a stand-up dude. This is a guy with a code.
Yeah.
This is a guy who like has a code of ethics and he sticks to them and everything else. And when you hear about his father, it's like, okay, maybe that's where you got it from. But then when you meet the guy, he's totally fucking opposite.
Right.
And you're like, wait, really? I mean, to me, if they... I guess the way I would rewrite this is... it would bring, if there was like more of a, I don't know, what do you want to call it? If they're trying to go like the Lord of the Flies kind of thing,
Right?
Where they had little to no resources, they're stuck on a planet where they don't know the vegetation, which was a major thing because they had the stuff that messed them up, and you're like, okay, I get what's happening, but if it affected them differently, it just went to this primal state that I don't even think primates, like humans, ancient humans would even do.
Right.
And ancient humans have done some messed up stuff.
Right.
But like even that, like the way that they were doing it was just like it was horrific. And I feel like if they had wrote it in a way where maybe Jacob's father died trying to protect
Yeah.
you know, the people when they started breaking down or trying to make an effort and then, you know, leaves a message behind where Jacob sees it and he's like, oh man, everything went south here and went messed up, but at least my dad tried to make a difference.
Right.
This one, and that was the thing that was really horrible about this mission is because the father sat there and it's like you said before, MJ, like when he was like, oh, yo, thank you for coming. Yo, I'll hook you up with something nice. And didn't even recognize his own son. I mean, granted, Jacob was a kid, but at the same time, you know, was just like, yo, I got you, son.
Yeah.
Yo, you did that. Yo, I got you, man. What you need. And then it's like, you've been here for 10 years, and that's your first reaction to the first person that you haven't seen outside of this planet in like 10 years? Like, really? You ready to offer up another human being to this person? Like, that, to me, says a lot about his character that, you know, and I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant, but
and no, it's all right.
And this whole mission annoyed the hell out of me. I'm sorry, but like, if you would you'd say that, you know, Jacob's father tried to fight off something or tried to come up with something, maybe he died in the process, or when you get there, there's like a freedom thing, like you know, he's sitting there like, yo, we fighting against people who are messed up because, you know, they got women in prison and blah, blah, blah. We trying to get them out of here. Thank you for coming to help us.
Right.
Or something. But no, we just, give the messed up story to the only black man in space.
I had a similar thought to Chuck.
Yeah.
About Jacob's father giving his life for a greater good. That way we keep the BioWare like trend of, hey, guess what? We're going to make you sad.
Yeah.
But let's make someone sad for a reason that's more like affirming in a way.
Yeah.
Like Jacob believes that his father kind of took off and left. Why not give him a story where my father didn't take off and leave? My father got stuck on a planet in hostile territory and he escaped to launch the beacon 10 years later that called us to save other people. Mm-hmm. And he died in the attempt to launch the beacon.
Yeah. And I think also a way to avoid the horrible stuff that they did to women in this is like all they had to do was make the women aggressive as well. Like make them the enemy as well. And like remove that part of the story. Like at least if these are warring factions fighting, it's less gross. I mean, it's still complicated and sucks, but at least if they're shoulder to shoulder with these other people who have also been affected by the flora, like it changes the dynamic. It's less passive. You know, I think all of it still is murky, and I don't know that there's an easy way to do that, but at least if we remove the passivity of it and like Jacob's father is trying to save everyone, but they've all gone violent or they've all kind of lost their will or whatever. Like, it wasn't across the board. It was the men were violent, the women were submissive, and that's what, I think a big part of what led into this story being gross among other reasons.
That's the reason why I called it Incel Paradise. It's like any of you see any of these minimus, whatever you want to call them. What they did in the game to some of the other men was that they basically wanted to see themselves as the alpha.
Right.
So they took out, quote unquote, I guess what you would want to call their physical competition.
Right.
They just did away with them so they can have more submissive women. But the thing is, it was like, that's what I think enraged me even more.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you were affected by the flora and then you just became this raging.
Right.
At that point, you can't help yourself. Something is messing with the actual structure of your body. Like you can't help yourself. You're being this violent person. But Jacob's father was I'm good with this. Let's do this. Like, that's what really annoyed me. I was like, you're not even affected by anything and you're being this person.
Yeah.
Like.
Humans are the real monsters. Ugh.
This is true.
Humans are monsters. But, so hear me out. Screw the
Yeah.
toxic fauna, get rid of it.
Right.
Why don't we have it be there's a faction on the ship that wants the ship to go down, and they're behind the crash.
Uh-huh.
Those people have the rest of the crew on lockdown. Because if anybody finds out, then, like, they're all going to jail, and they can't have that. So instead, you're all stuck here. Like, they were waiting for a pickup. It never came. So instead, they kind of took control, and they're keeping everyone on lockdown, including acting Captain Jacob Taylor. Not Jacob Taylor. Ronald Taylor.
Yeah. No, I think that would be a great way to shift the story and the narrative.
That way we don't have to worry about, like, gross injustice being committed against the women of the crew. Everyone is on equal footing. Everyone is, like, equally in danger. And there's, like, a small group of crewmen, could be, like, a mix of men and women, who are, like, holding the others hostage. And you can come up with the reason for why they've been like that for 10 years and why it took 10 years for the beacon to go out. But it could have been acting Captain Taylor's final act to get that beacon launched. And he...
Yeah.
So, personally, I think that is the best outcome for Jacob. And I will probably write that fanfic.
Yes.
I will read it.
I like it.
So...
Or you know what? They what they could have done was if they really wanted if they wanted to keep the toxic fauna or whatever, they could have maybe it affected some of the men so messed up that they had to literally quarantine them,
Yeah.
and or it affected some men and some didn't get the effects. It didn't
Right.
make them rageful or whatever. But the women were like, "Oh no, we taking over this," and then they arm themselves.
Yeah.
Like I just picture it like y'all have been there for 10 years, and I just picture it like you've got all these like Amazon women who are like, "Yo, these dudes they fucked up because they ate this fruit. Now they out here. We gonna whoop their ass."
Yeah.
And then they like get like awesome looking, what's the name of that game with Horizon Zero Dawn? Like,
Yeah.
Like this weird mechanical like arrows and shit.
Yeah.
And then they and then the dudes and then Captain Taylor could have been like, yo, it's affecting me like this.
Yeah.
I gotta send this beacon out.
Yeah.
And
Like
the
it's
other
his
dudes
last act.
around me is like they fucking up, and the women are fighting for themselves, and I can't control my shit, and I'm dying and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
All right.
beacon. And then they get there, and then there's a actual like journal that Jacob reads, and it's like a hologram recording of saying, "Jacob, if you ever see this, I tried, I just couldn't."
Yeah.
I'm doing that's
Okay.
my version of a video game black dude voice. Jacob, I'm trying to.
Well done.
Ultimately, I think it needs to be a story of reconciliation.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think
All
that
right,
was
well,
really
I-
productive.
I think so too. I think we can now close the book on this mission and start doing the wrap up of the episode because
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right. Well, the next episode is going to be The Prodigal, where we talk about Miranda.
Yes. That's just the two of us, right? We don't have a guest for
Just
that one.
the two of us.
Why? Every time. Why?
Why not?
Before we thank Chuck, I believe we got a new email from a listener.
Gosh darn it, you are correct. I completely forgot about it.
That's why I reminded you.
Thank you.
Sometimes I do that.
Why didn't you write it on the outline? Oh, you did. I'm the worst.
You did. You are the worst.
Oh, well. So this is from Mary. Dear Matt and MJ, thank you for making such an awesome podcast. When I was playing the games years ago, I didn't know a single living soul who also played them. It was frustrating, this is putting it mildly, not having anyone to share the story and characters with. It's been a while since I've had time for gaming, but listening to you and your guests dissect every aspect of a game that I love so much has filled a need I didn't know I had. I've always played Shepard's story as if I was really Ellen Shepard. Her choices were my choices. Like most Mass Effect players, I have a lot of feelings about everything, but in the interest of time, I'll only share a few things I've realized since I began listening to Reignite. 1. I've discovered things about my own personality, namely that I can be more manipulative and devious than I thought possible. While I always played
Uh-oh.
While I always played mostly Paragon, more often than not, I found myself making Paragon choices not because I wanted to, but because I knew that being nice would get me what I wanted. This happened mostly during the third game with all the political stuff that goes down while you're trying to convince people to help you. And I wasn't even thinking about the overall meta of the game itself. I just knew that by being civil and diplomatic, I was more likely to get what I wanted, even though there were times I hated everyone's guts. Poor Ellen Shepard had a lot of pent-up anger. Being on my, quote, best behavior made me take quite a few Renegade QuickTime options on side missions. By the end of the third game, my Renegade and Paragon levels were even with each other. Number 2. Like most players, I had a crush on Garrus from day one. However, I never acted on it because I don't think I would ever get involved with a coworker in real life. We were definitely close friends, and I think I took him on every single mission I could. I even remember other characters remarking on this, saying that it wasn't fair that he got to go everywhere. Saying goodbye to him in the third game was one of the most emotional moments of the entire series. I also got the feeling he knew how I felt. Although, I can't read this part because Matt doesn't know about this. Sorry.
Spoilers.
But a moment happened that made her feel very betrayed. And, I probably would have too if I were you. Poor Ellen Shepard. I really put her through an emotional whirlwind. Also, you have to do an episode on the indoctrination theory surrounding the third game. I didn't hate the ending, but the theories make a lot of sense. Just saying. Shrug emoji. And, full disclosure, I've never liked Liara. When she wasn't being naive, she was a know-it-all. I don't think I ever took her anywhere. Once again, thank you for making this podcast. I discovered it a few weeks ago and have just now caught up with the most current episode. I'm Commander Ellen Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Cheers, Mary Ellen. Thank you so much. That was really sweet.
Awesome.
That's very sweet. And I can relate to a lot of that. I also... kudos to only discovering it a few weeks ago and listening to all the episodes, because there are a lot of episodes.
Word.
So thank you for that. That's very kind. Call us on our bullshit if we screw anything up.
As
we
always.
need more of you out there. But thank you for listening. And thank you for that lovely email. I guess this would be a great place, now that we've finished having that lovely email read by Mary Ellen Shepard, to thank our guest, Chuck, for being on the show.
Yay! Thank you, Chuck!
Me. Thank you.
If people would like to find your comic, you, or the other things that you do on the internet, where should they look?
I am... What is that little squiggly thing again?
You're
I'm
at.
sorry.
It's all right.
I'm at bounce_comic on both Instagram and Twitter. Bouncethecomic.com. You can read my strips over there. And that's pretty much it. Also on Facebook too.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah.
You can also get trades of
Yes.
those comics as well.
You can get trades of them on Gumroad, which is basically gumroad.com/thebouncer. And you can order both volumes, which basically is a compilation of the first 2 years of Bounce. The first volume being 2014, the second volume is 2015. And I'm currently working on, it's already done. I'm just actually working on the cover for volume 3.
Nice.
So
very cool. Awesome.
it's happening.
Very cool. Please go check out that stuff. Chuck is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So as I mentioned, our next episode is The Prodigal, about Miranda's loyalty mission. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com, like Mary Ellen Shepard did. Please rate, review, subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
Yep, we love bringing new listeners on to the show and chatting about this. If you don't know, we are part of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server, which you mentioned earlier, so you can actually join in the conversation. We have a lot of wonderful nerds on our Discord server constantly talking about stuff, including an entire spoiler chat labeled Matt Don't Go Here because it's about Andromeda and I haven't played it yet. Because I'm playing it for the podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely check that out. Check out the other podcasts. Also, if you this weekend happen to be in New Jersey at a video game con, my other gaming podcast will be doing a live? I can talk, I swear. A live podcast at
Full
the
of
con.
love.
On the Saturday of love, of our love of video games. It's on the 7th, Saturday at 4 p.m. If you're at a video game con, please swing by and hang out with us. I'd love to see you in person. I think we're going to do a little chat about video game collecting and how it's blown up over the last few years. So tune in for that. Or you can just hear it on the podcast feed after the fact. MJ, I hear you have other podcasts besides this one now.
What? Me? Other podcasts? Lunacy. No. I have 2 other podcasts. One is called The Circle of Friendship that I host with my good friend Anna Feeney, where we talk about The Circle of Magic books by Tamara Pierce. That you can find that on Twitter at COFPod. And the other one is called The Rob Thomas, No Not That One, Robcast, where we talk about the works of Rob Thomas, creator of Veronica Mars and iZombie, where I discuss those shows with my good friend Alex Lavelle, who is also of the Minds at York podcast that I guest star on sometimes. I say guest star like I'm an important person. Matt,
You are an important person.
3-star human. 5-star podcast. 3-star human.
Yeah, that's true. We are definitely 3-star humans at best. Chuck's a 5-star human now.
No.
Yeah, he is.
I'm an aspiring basic person.
I have been streaming more. I've been promoting that more than everything else just because it's new. On twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. Currently, I'm playing through Stardew Valley with my good friend Katie Bug, who is a very talented and intelligent farmer, whereas I am a not so intelligent and inept farmer, and she guides me through the process in Stardew Valley, and it's been a lot of fun. I streamed some Fire Emblem. I'm planning on picking up the Spyro trilogy since I never played it back when it was on the PlayStation, and so I'm excited to get the remaster, the Reignited trilogy, to tie it back into Mass Effect, and so I'll probably be streaming that a little bit. So go check that out again. It's twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. I would love to have your viewership.
One of these nights we have to do a mining fest.
Yeah, where I just sit and mine in Mass Effect 2 on Twitch stream. Because that'll be the most boring stream, but hopefully people will come hang out and talk because mining is
I would
so
do it
boring.
with you, and we would both be on the call, and maybe our listeners could pop
that could
in
be a lot of
and
fun.
talk to us and stuff.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We'll have to make that happen sometime before the final mission.
Yeah. We'd like to say thank you to Christina Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kaden Alenko. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. And we'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. They have sales all the time, guys. And
go buy our stuff.
And Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Chuck Collins. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.